Afternoon, guys. It is Friday, January 2nd, so Happy New Year. I'm going to get right into it this afternoon. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I don't know how short I'm going to be able to keep it. I want to talk to you this morning about, this afternoon, about something that is kind of really, I have a real heart for, and that is some of the ideals that fall behind what leadership in the musical aspect of worship kind of are portrayed to be in some ways, and things that I think that we might be missing. This because it is musically based. This is really a subjective topic. I'm not even gonna deny it. There's so many schools of thought when it comes to the current state of worship in the church, and specifically traditional versus contemporary, and what contemporary is and isn't, and all sorts of other stuff. And that's all well and good, but that's that's a massive conversation to have, and that would be something that would break up in a lot of parts to really cover. But what I really want to just talk about today is some of the things that I've come across, that I've seen in looking at what the church, or different churches, I guess I should say, look for in a worship leader or a music director. And like I said, this is really a subjective thing. And I understand different aspects of it, but I guess what I want to do today is just share what my vision is of what a worship leader or a music director should look like. I guess primarily it would be worship leader, because music director covers a lot of other facets that I'm not even going to talk about today. But first off, yes, I do have a very serious interest in possibly becoming a worship leader if the Lord were to allow such an opportunity to happen. I have a very, very deeply rooted love of music, which stems back from even before I was saved. And to be quite honest with you, when I did get saved, I thought that part of my life might be done. But the Lord has been kind, and He's been very, very merciful, and He has allowed me to have the bulk of the ministry that I've been involved in revolve around music. The first ministry I was involved in, and most of it that I'm involved in, up until this point, has been music oriented, and I'm very thankful for that. But I guess just getting right to this topic of what a worship leader really is. I've noticed a lot of things where there's the idea of or some of the traits or the objectives. I guess objective is a better word, that churches are looking for in worship leaders have to do with things like executing or conveying and executing your vision for the worship of the church, developing, retaining, recruiting, and developing team members, and then from there, growing the ministry as a whole, being involved in other aspects of the church with musical worship and stuff like that. And all that stuff is great. There's just some things that I've noticed that go into the idea of certain aspects of conveying and executing your own vision as a worship leader. First off, I think all ministries have a particular aspect of a leadership position that really comes to being committed to the team of people that you're working with, and not just looking at it from an aspect of I'm in charge or whatever. To me, like, my vision of what a worship leader is essentially you're the one who the responsibility has been put on in order to facilitate all of the necessary things in order for the ministry to execute what it is that it's supposed to be doing, and which is providing a genuine, Christ-centered, team-oriented, congregationally connected worship environment. And I think a lot of worship leaders miss that. Let's start on the first things first, team-oriented. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean it's your thing. There's a lot of people that you're interactive with, and you have an obligation to the entire team in order to evaluate its strengths and weaknesses, work with team members in both those avenues for their development, both individually and as part of the team. And then even furthermore is to develop the team as a whole. I mean, you will develop some individuals more quickly than others, and some will fall into more impactful roles in some cases than others. That happens, but it's not a point of cherry picking. You can't. And I've seen this. I've been involved with a bunch of different. I won't say a bunch, but I've been involved with different types of worship leaders, and I've seen everything from the people who are team oriented and want to develop the team as a whole, to the people who pick the people they get along with the most and develop them first, and that isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, you can have somebody who's extremely talented, but if you're allowing your personal preference and your personal relationship with that person overshadow, what it is that they should actually be doing within the realm of the team, based upon their skill and based upon their approach to their place in the team, and ultimately their role within the team. If you just develop them into something, out of personal preference, it may not necessarily be a good thing. I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but it should, when you develop your team, you need to develop them as a whole. And as you're developing them as a whole, those people who, are shown to be more capable or more reliable in some instances, then you begin to develop them in that realm. But you need to work with your whole team. You can't just just develop particular people and then just leave the rest of the team by the wayside. I've seen that, but to the same extent too, you can't be so team focused that you're missing an opportunity to develop somebody who may have an amazing gift, and to kind of help them along and push them along into developing themselves and having them have a greater impact in their service for the Lord. Secondly, being congregationally connected. I've attended churches where the congregation is just not into the worship. It's just not. And generally what the reason for that is because the vision, quote unquote, of the leadership who is overseeing the music and the worship ministry at that point in time is not connected to what the congregation is feeling, and is not connected to what brings the congregation to the most genuine and real place of worship to God. But I've experienced those leaderships that get it right, and it's an amazing thing when you connect with your congregation. You find out what works and what gives them as a whole. I mean, because you're going to have different people connect different ways, but you do have the capability to not box yourself in, and not box your team in, and not box your church in, and look at the larger picture and see the different things that allow your congregation to have that genuine connection and genuine experience for worship, and use all of those things instead of just being like, this is what I want to do, this is where we're going, this is what's happening. And then beyond that, well, actually, to achieve all of that, I think it requires checking yourself at the door and realizing that the title of leader is merely that. You are part of a team. You are part of a congregation. And everything that you do, or everything that you strive to do, in order to truly be, the most God-centered thing that it can be, it needs to place the needs of your congregation, your team, before your wants. We get to stuck on this idea that I have this vision, this is where I want to go, blah, 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 blah. And even if it fails, we beat it into the ground. We can't do that. And especially not in ministry, we can't do that. We need to check our pride at the door. We need to check ourselves at the door and look around us and see what it is that we actually should be doing. And not only that, but when we are struggling, we need to consult God, and God is clearly showing us something. We need to follow. As much as it might go against what it is that we want to do, we need to follow. Secondly, fourthly, music selection. I'm not going to go massively into this, but there's this conversation about what contemporary worship is and isn't. Contemporary is a sound. The definition of it means of the time, but it's purely a sound. Whether you have a song that just came off Paul Baloch's last album or Jeremy Camp's last album, or whether you have the song of It As Well, which was written over 100 years ago, it's the sound that brings it into the category of contemporary or not. Because for us, if we're truly dealing with praise and worship music, and we're not dealing with Christian contemporary or anything like that, I'm talking about the stuff that you play and is really acceptable to play on Sunday mornings or Sunday evenings or Wednesday nights or whenever it is that you have a service, that stuff, that music, the message is the same now as it was 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and it doesn't make a song that's as old as dust any less relevant than a song that was written 2 weeks ago. It's all the sound, because you can take it as well, and it has been done time and time again, and give it a new sound with the same lyrics, and it's relevant again. And I think we overlook that sometimes. I'm a fan of blending the traditional and the contemporary, and I'm a fan of bringing traditional to the contemporary, and I'm a fan of taking the contemporary back to the traditional. You can do all of it. You just got to be willing to do so. And again, it comes with finding out what it is that works in your church, what allows your congregation to have the greatest genuine worship experience that they can have, and doing that, not what you're stuck on. And then lastly, and this is the last thing I'm going to leave it with, is if you're on a worship team, and especially if you're leadership, as leadership, we need to invest as much time and work into our skill, whether it be a singer, an instrumentalist, whatever it is, as we expect the people that we are playing with to do. And as a whole, we need to encourage them to do so, because we are called to be skillful and to be prepared in order to use those skills to the greatest of our ability for service in God. But to that extent as well, I also like something that Paul Baloch did say once, that he likes being skilled just enough not to get in the way of what the song is meant to do or what the song is saying. And I like that. Develop yourself, gain, those technical prowesses and get better, but don't do it for the sake of being able to show off. Don't do it for the sake of being able to push out a minute-long solo in the middle of a worship set. Do it for the sake of being able to contribute to the highest level that you possibly can. And leaders, encourage your team to do it in that manner. You know, and you yourselves do it as well. I do it. You know, we all need to do it. I had one other point and I lost it. But realistically, guys, you can have all of the training in the world. You can go to school, get a degree in musical worship, you know, worship leadership, you know, whatever it is. I know there are a few different degrees and certificates out there, and you can have all that. But if you're not genuinely focused on what it is that the purpose of worship is, then, you know, it's sometimes, even with the best laid plan and vision and setting all of the parts and pieces in place, if we're not really focused on giving all that we can to God in what we're doing, and genuinely and unselfishly helping the people in our congregation experience that most open and wholehearted experience of worship, then we're not, I don't think we're achieving what it is that we're doing. I really don't. And I mean, there are probably people who will disagree left and right with what I'm saying, and that's fine. You know, everybody has their own school of thought, but this is just mine. You know, and maybe this is why I've never had the opportunity to experience, you know, being a full-on leader in a worship setting, because I am team-oriented. You know, my team is everything. Every team I've ever worked with, that team is everything. You know, without them, I'm nothing. You know, I worship, like for me, like, I have an okay voice. You know, and I've developed it, and when it's on, it's good. But if I have vocalists who, you know, are far more capable and far more talented than I am for a certain week's sets worth of songs, I may not sing a song that entire week, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, because it's bringing the best that we have and placing that in front of the Lord. I'll let the vocalist sing every song, and I'll sit back and I'll sing back up, or play guitar and sing back up, and I'll do all the transitions and segues, you know, which can be done, and I've seen it done, and when it works, it's amazing. But, you know, it just because you are stamped with the word leader doesn't mean that your face is the one that's got to be up front, because essentially all you're doing is acting as a facilitator. It's not your vision. Really, in the long haul, has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's about serving the Lord and helping be a part of creating an environment where people can openly and honestly praise God, worship God, and all in the name of Christ. You know, it has nothing to do with us. But that's it. That's everything. And I actually think that was my last point. I'm going to cut it off there. There's all sorts of viewpoints that I'm sure could be hashed up to this, and a lot of people can comment on a lot of different things. And I would like to see some feedback on this. You know, I'm very, very interested in to see what other people's thought processes are, because I'm constantly diving into it for this particular topic, and there's a lot out there. But to end this, I want to do a few shout outs and encourage you guys to check out some other YouTube channels and Facebook pages and stuff like that. A guy that I subscribe to, espltdguitarlover. For the musicians out there, go there, check out his page. He does some really great reviews on a lot of really cool gear. So if you're a gearhead like me, you know, checking out his page can be really helpful. He does honest, upfront reviews. Disclaimer, he's a little free with his words, which is fine. I still watch his page because that's his deal. So there is the occasional curse word that pops out there for those of you who shy away from that stuff. But his reviews are excellent. His information is phenomenal, he's very, very genuine about what it is that he's attempting to do, which is to provide accurate and legitimate information to musicians and other people on different things. So check him out. On the music front, on the Christian music front, a couple of bands, RiversideConfession. They're a great band out of upstate New York. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I don't get the whole upstate thing. To me, upstate New York is anything above the PA border. So, but they have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. Please check out RiversideConfession. They just have released a new album a couple of months ago, Destroy the Stained Glass Monster. I hope I got that right, Jared. But you guys should definitely check it out, support them. It's phenomenal music, and it's a really awesome ministry. Also, Against the Slate, based out of Allentown, PA now, I believe. I think they're still in the midst of working on finishing up their album. They are a great band. Again, great music and great ministry. So please, check them out. Facebook. I'm not sure what all they have up on YouTube as far as new stuff now, but Against the Slate. And then lastly, Christian media company out of upstate New York, New Vine Media. They deal in all sorts of different media services, music, video, advertising, I believe. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Their website is very informative in detail. Headed up by a gentleman by the name of John Carter, who just has an amazing heart for God, and his, the work that they do as a company is awesome, but at the same time, the ministry that is the basis for that work is phenomenal as well. So, definitely check out their Facebook page. They do have a YouTube, so check that out too, and subscribe to any one of these things. You won't be disappointed. These are some amazing people doing some amazing things from whatever angle you come at. So, okay, guys, that's it. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, and I will hopefully talk to you guys next week. All right, later. Bye.